The largest cycle embodied by a root race. All the races and subraces that evolve are seeds for the next level of evolution. All races and subraces have a long overlap, so whilst one race is unfolding, it will give birth to another distinct race that will unfold on a partially parallel timeline. Although this is a two-dimensional diagram, we can think of time and evolution as spiralic. The root races started around 150 million years ago, during the latter part of that immense cycle we call the fourth round. The first 2.5 human races were in the subtle or etheric realm, and gradually evolved into a physical form with skin and bones in the middle of the third root race of Lemuria. Human bodies were enormous in those times, but through development of the mental principle became smaller and more refined.
Halfway through the third or Lemurian root race, in the precise evolutionary cycle, a magnificent preordained spiritual event occurred on Earth. It was the coming of the Lords of Flame, who imparted the spark of mind to humanity. This was a humanity who were hitherto only members of the animal kingdom, with animal instinctual awareness and in reality, no mind. This period is known as individualization, and it is where Earth's greatest mysteries lay hidden. The Lords of Flame are also known as Kumaras, and emanated from an evolution from within the Earth scheme called the Venus chain. It was an evolution associated with Venus, but not from the planet Venus per se. Remember, each planet is a scheme of chains and globes, which are a microcosm of the great solar system. The planets sing together, creating the music of the spheres.
That's why we see the waves
symphony.
in the sky.
The
planets are
presence of
singing.
these 105 Kumaras created a great influx of force, so powerful that a mighty storm raged over the planet, destroying most of the animal kingdom, dinosaurs and humans alike.
The advent of the Lords of the Flame, the electrical storm, which ushered in the period of man, was distinguished by disaster, chaos, and the destruction of much of the animal kingdom. The spark of mind was implanted in humanity. The strength of its vibration and the immediate effect of its presence caused the death of the animal form, thus producing the immediate possibility of the newly vitalized soul bodies, vibrating to such purpose that new physical bodies were taken for incarnation.
This individualization period occurred in the third branch race of the third subrace of the third root race, Lemuria, expressed as 333. The number 3 relates to the Universal Mother who births all forms. The individualization process started 21.6 million years ago, the chronology of the secret sciences that pinpoints the death of the dinosaurs. After a few million years, the individualization process for various groupings of humans culminated 18.6 million years ago, with the final registering of this spark of mind. Consciousness was not instantaneously received, like turning on a light switch. Groups of souls, needed special attention by the guides of the race in this 3 million-year period to fan their spark into a flame. During this period, another miraculous evolution occurred. The future humans, who were hitherto members of the animal kingdom with only instinctual consciousness, were hermaphrodite also. In other words, they reproduced themselves without the aid of any mate. Thus, hermaphrodite humanity gradually transformed into a two-sex species over this 3 million-year period. By the time the process was completed, it corresponded to the completion of the individualization period 18.6 million years ago in the fifth subrace of Lemuria. Male and female then started to reproduce the way humans do today. Adam and Eve in the garden represented this separation of the sexes, whilst the eating of the apple was the gaining of consciousness. This biblical story will be covered in greater detail in this series.
Wow, that's not what they told us. See how they lied?
If we study the individualization period, we can find most of the mysteries of humanity are encoded around this time. The period of individualization represented the awakening of humanity.
See how they just left us in the dark about everything?
Pretty much with
the truth?
consciousness at time. It occurred back in Lemurian times, halfway through the Lemurian root race, and it was kick-started or triggered by the so-called Lords of Flame, who came from an evolution within the Earth scheme. This evolution within the Earth scheme is associated with Venus, but it was not Venus per se. The presence of these beings, these Kumaras or Lords of Flame, created an electrical field around the planet that ended up destroying most of the animal kingdom at that time. And this was probably the true period of the death of the dinosaurs. It was the death of the human forms at that time who were part of the animal kingdom, but they reincarnated after this period.
Because we were half human and half animal, and we didn't have a mind. We were mindless.
This occurred around
because we didn't have a consciousness.
3.5 million years ago, but it took about 3 million years to fan the spark of mind into a greater flame, so to speak. And
to an intelligent
over this 3
being.
million year period, humanity became individualized in various ray groupings around the planet. So animal man at the time went from instinctual consciousness to individual self-consciousness. They became self-aware. And this particular period is delineated in Genesis, in the Bible, where Adam and Eve knew each other. This was the time of individualization, sort of more or less mythologically expressed.
This table shows the timeline that corresponds to these subrace events in Lemuria.
They kept all this information from us, guys.
Gradually, all the Lords of Flame, their work completed, returned to the Venusian evolution within the Earth scheme. Yet 7 of these Kumaras stayed, the chief of whom is called Sanat Kumara, or
Several
Melchizedek,
stayed.
also known as the Watcher, or the Ancient of Days. He presides over humanity until the last weary pilgrim struggles home. In other words, until the last of humanity achieves liberation. This was also the time of the establishment of the planetary center called Shambhala, over which Sanat Kumara presides.
The following table shows that Shambhala's establishment coincided with human individualization. The being whose body is our planet utilizes the human races for expression. Here again, we see our inseparability from deity, and that our evolution contributes to the greater evolution, and vice versa. In the table, we can see these chronological correspondences with the subraces and group races.